So, what is love? Recently, I've been watching a lot of dating shows, and this hasn't really been out of my own interest. Rather, friends and family have prompted this. Last week, I watched my first episode of Love Island UK and Too Hot to Handle. And then a few months ago, my cousin got me to watch Married at First Sight. After watching all these shows, I feel completely confident in the belief that I never, ever want to see women, especially women, competing for love. Like, I can't do it. It looks like prison to me. It looks like shackles to me. It looks like the trenches to me. I just don't like it. And I also think it encourages some of the most harmful and strangest behavior around.
Colton, what's your name?
Bree.
Bree.
So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. You got a nice accent. Where are you from?
The accent is Australian. I was hoping that you're kind of a sucker for accents.
I
didn't know
am.
what you think about it.
I love it. I'll see you inside, all right?
Okay,
All
sounds
right,
good. I'm not really Australian, but you have to do what you can to stand out.
14.
Remember when you told me that marriage for you is one time and one time only? I feel the same exact way. I just say goodbye to Jenny. Okay, hold on real quick. I can't look you in your eye and tell you that I love you. I can't.
But I also feel confident in saying that a lot of us have been sold a bill of lies about what love is and what love can look like. I'm always debating love and partnering with cisgender men and just partnering in general with friends and family members. And unfortunately, so many people I know are down bad. They are still very much in the trenches when it comes to partnering and dealing with love. Growing up in a very patriarchal culture, family members and basically Disney, but also other forms of media such as these really popular dating TV shows, reality TV shows, and movies have instilled some very poor ideas about love. However, after reading this book right here, All About Love by Bell Hooks, I have been pushed to reconsider my understanding of love, and now I want to push you, my audience, as well. You might be asking yourself why I didn't make this video on a Valentine's Day, and you're probably right. I would have probably made a more timely video if this was released in February, but I didn't finish the book in February. I just finished it a few weeks ago, and it's never a wrong time to talk about love, as I've learned from this book right here. So welcome back to Black Wahala, and today we will be talking about 5 lies you and I have been told about love. The lies being that love is helpless, love is blind, love is abuse, love is only romantic, and that love differs between the genders. So, what is love? So, when asked this question at an elementary school, most young children define love as getting what you want, a sweater, hugs, getting a trip to Disneyland, or they defined it as a feeling. And herein lies the problem. We believe that love is a feeling. Love is as love does. However, such ideas are actually quite dangerous because it allows us to support ideas such as crimes of passion, which, if you really think about it, is very ridiculous. It's very strange. How can you love someone so much that you feel that it is proper and necessary for you to take their life? And this sort of idea also suggests that there is no choice in love. So the typical romance movie plot is that characters just fall in love. But this also implies the first lie, which is that love is helpless. How many times have you heard this phrase? We fell in love. countless times. But have you really stopped to consider what this phrase is really trying to say? If love is really something that occurs to you by happenstance, then do you have to be accountable for the shitty things that you do to your partner? For instance, in the last episode of Love Island UK that I hesitantly watched because I don't like that show, one of the characters, I'm going to say character because this is a reality TV show, so obviously everything is not unscripted, but one of the characters wanted to get to know another woman in the house better, even though he had already been partnered with another woman. And what I found that was super interesting was that my friends kept yelling at the screen at the other lady because she felt hurt by that decision. And they kept saying, well, that's the premise of the show. You don't have to be committed or responsible to a particular individual. And so if you don't have to be fully committed or responsible to one person or to a group of people, you get relieved of any responsibility to another person. And even in non-monogamous relationships, this can't work either. You still have to be responsible to the persons that you are having a relationship with. But this is not how love works. And this is the ultimate flaw of shows like Love Island and Too Hot to Handle. If you just fall in love, then you don't have to be accountable for the manipulative behavior that you inflict upon others. A great example of this is from the TV show Married at First Sight, and the one character that made me so mad, Chris from the couple Chris and Paige.
I am still in love with her. So I think that it's best to separate, to divorce. I can't apologize enough for everything that has happened, and I just hope you don't hate me, which I can't control.
Okay. Okay. Chris is whispering that his fear is falling in love with me.
Don't you feel silly? Don't you feel stupid? Don't you feel a little ashamed?
Love is an action, not something that just happens to fall in your lap. When we view love as a feeling, we also limit the agency that each of us have. Before I begin, I would like to note that my thoughts on this particular section of the video come primarily from the work of Black writers and activists such as Deshaun Harrison and Terry Pickens. So right off the bat, the phrase "love is blind" is an ableist phrase, right? Like, we all realize that, right? Like even if this phrase was meant to be metaphorical, like, it's still ableist. Now, we know that when most people say this phrase, they are assuming that true love does not depend on physical traits or physical attractiveness. Rather, it hinges upon a deeper connection. However, this relies on blindness as a metaphor. Blind people cannot see, so therefore they cannot perceive. Or blind people cannot see, so therefore they perceive more, or something like that. This is the premise of shows like Love is Blind, The Circle, or Netflix's newest mess, Sexy Beast. Isn't it so interesting that blindness and disability become a point of entry to talk about love in our society's obsession with trying to ignore things like fatness, race, class, being gender non-conforming, and disability when navigating love? The gag is that all these things are not negligible as you navigate love, and we will never understand this if we keep touting the idea that love is blind. In a really, really good video by one of my faves, Julesy, which everybody should watch, by the way. She talks about why she thinks dating and love shows such as Married at First Sight are very dangerous for Black women. She talks about how the experts who partner Black women with men fail to understand the culture of Blackness and Black people and our cultural understandings of love. And so Black women are always going through literal emotional terrorism and horrendous situations on the show. And this will still occur even if at the end everything works out. She mentions how only one expert, which is Dr. Cow of all people, understood that things like colorism truly impact the experiences of Black women when it comes to finding love. I think for many Black women, a lot of us struggle with coming to terms that we might not truly come to see the love that we desire or deserve. People like us spend so much time pleading for others to see our humanity as when we are fat, Black, disabled, or gender non-conforming. We are acutely aware of the dehumanizing way people engage with us and our bodies. But we continue to yearn because we hope that one day people who don't live at these margins can come to the understanding that we too are deserving of love. How many times have you heard this before? My parents disciplined me or whipped me because they loved me and I was a bad little kid. People, we have a big problem here. There are so many Black people I know who think this way. So a 2015 Pew Research survey found that Black parents are more than twice as likely as white and Latino parents to use corporal punishment on a regular basis. I'm not trying to pathologize Blackness by claiming the idea that Black people are more violent with their children than other races, because I don't think that's true, as the study found that this behavior wasn't an intrinsic cultural behavior, but it stemmed from more historical understandings of love through things like colonialism and slavery. Obviously, this isn't to say that all pre-colonial African groups were not violent in their child rearing, just that there was more diversity in understandings and beliefs about how children are supposed to be raised. Unfortunately, I do know a lot of Black people who cling to these notions of abuse and that their childhood wasn't that bad because they are now successful. I know for many of us, it is hard for us to reconcile with the possibility that we grew up in dysfunctional homes that were abusive because we do not want others in our family to feel disparaged. Yet, for many of us, if we evaluate our childhoods, we find that it was not very loving. You're probably thinking to yourself, hold on. That couldn't possibly be true. Well, just humor me for a few more minutes. Harsh punishments like whipping and slap is not and will never be love or loving. We are often taught that love can coexist with abuse, and even worse, that abuse is an expression of love. But as Bell Hooks says in her book, there can be no love without justice. So we need to ask ourselves, what can a child do that could ever warrant or justify violence against their person? This only works if we believe that children are not people, which I think a lot of people believe this, even though they don't know. Something that has been made really clear to me by this book from Bell Hooks is that children are the most unprotected class of people on this planet. Children can only rely on the well-meaning adults to intervene, but often other adults do not intervene against the ways that their peers take care of their children. For instance, Bell Hooks describes a situation where she went to a dinner and the topic of physical punishment came up. She recounts how a man bragged about the fact that he had beaten his son earlier, and she thought to herself, well, you might not be a misogynist if you yourself weren't beaten by a woman. She then describes how when everyone talked about physical punishment, all the parents claimed to still be loving parents. But again, how can this be? Think about it like this. If an adult was to be beaten for the smallest of things as we were beaten for as children, would we call that behavior loving? If a man was to beat his girlfriend or his wife the way that parents beat their children, would we call that loving? No, of course not. So why do we think it's okay to treat children in this way? So now you might be reevaluating your childhood and thinking, did my parents love me? And I thought this too as I was reading Bell Hooks' book, but she brings up the point that while your parents might have not loved you in the sense of the word or the way that we understand what love really is, it doesn't mean that they didn't have care for you. They definitely did care about you, because a lack of love does not mean a lack of care. We can see that care is a dimension of love, but ultimately care is not enough. Of course, love being equated to abuse doesn't only occur in childhood, but our media also encourages abusive behavior when it comes to pursuing someone as an adult. Pop Culture Detective has done a brilliant video about this, which everybody should check out, by the way. But it is so strange to me how our culture promotes the idea that stalking and relentlessly pursuing someone, even though they have denied you time and time again, is loving. How can that be true love? No, it could never be. It's abusive and controlling behavior. Being obsessive and coercive towards another person is not going to get them to love you. That isn't true love. I've been thinking a lot about what my general aversion to romantic love is all about, and I think it has a lot to do with the messages I've received throughout most of my life that romantic love is the most important love you will ever receive in your life. I think deep down I've always known that I actually don't really believe this. I don't think that people who have never been partnered will live a dull, sad, miserable life, because I think romantic love isn't something that everyone is inclined to care about. In fact, there are many people out there who experience little to no romantic attraction. Our world privileges romantic love so much, and especially if you're a cisgender woman, especially if you are a Black cisgender woman, romantic love truly, it's the dumps, it's trash. If you partner with a cisgender man, you will most likely have to do a bit of Build-A-Bear. You will. Unfortunately, even if you work, you still will be doing most of the housework. In fact, husbands create an extra 7 hours per week of housework for women. It's truly the dumps, the trenches, the ghetto. Like, it's not looking cute. Married women live shorter lives and have more health complications than single women. And to me, just being able to say that you have a man really is not the accomplishment that so many people think it is. While I think this reality is happening because we are still so beholden to the idea of the nuclear family, even though it has a lot of flaws. Like, a lot of flaws. Like, I just don't understand why so many of y'all are obsessed with it. And because of patriarchy, I think unfortunately it's going to take a very, very long time for us to be free from these shackles of heterosexual partnering. And when I say shackles, I'm talking about the adverse impacts on cisgender women. And I'm not sure if I want to devote my time and energy into dismantling it, because like I said, I'm at a place where romantic love and romantic partnering isn't really something I care about, and probably into the foreseeable future, I don't think I will. That being said, that's not to say that I can't change my mind. I might, but I'm just much more interested in living and partnering with friends and those in my community, because that just brings me so much more joy. That being said, I cannot live with all of my friends. There are some friends that I know I will not be able to live with, and that is just the truth. You know, I can't live with everybody. I know some queer people feel a type of way that heterosexual people are finally coming to this realization, but I mean, the heads are always behind. Like, what can you do? Just want to reiterate, of course, if you want to pursue romantic love, feel free to do it. That simply isn't my ministry at this moment and into the foreseeable future. Of course, this particular lie about love being only about romantic love also brings up another lie that I cannot stand, and that is that love is different between the two genders. You know, men are from Mars and women are from Venus.
Are you not ashamed of yourself? Are you not embarrassed? This is really embarrassing.
John Gray is gonna have to pay for his crimes, okay? He's gonna have to pay for his crimes because that freaking book was menacing. Do you know how many people have internalized what's been written about men are from Mars and women are from Venus and have propagated the most annoying patriarchal sexist BS about love? Like, I'm sorry, but John Gray, you're gonna have to pay for your crimes. I cannot even come to discuss the amount of people who really internalize these ideas, these biosensualist ideas of love, that, by the way, the research doesn't really even back up. Like, when I say this, obviously I'm talking about a very binary way of understanding love and gender, because unfortunately people who believe these kinds of takes generally have a very binary way of understanding the world anyways to begin with. I believe that we collectively do not want to move away from binary understandings of love. There is literally a whole industry of self-help books, movies, YouTube channels, videos, guides, people selling courses online that emphasize that love is different between the genders. And actually, what I found super interesting from Bell Hooks' book is that she noted that women consume all this self-help love stuff much more than men. Why? Well, I have a few theories. First one being that women are more concerned about lovelessness, which in my opinion is an idea that is propagated by patriarchy. But also my second theory is that women have been told, like, basically our entire lives, that we always need to be seeking self-improvement. Like, there's always a better way for you to be yourself if you're a woman. And I believe that women have really consumed this ideology and have really internalized the idea that if you are not seeking self-improvement all the time, you will be unable to attain love. And I just don't think this idea really impacts men in the same way. I've talked about this before, but there's so much content out there about how you can change your material conditions by partnering well, which, like, is a freaking joke. Like, do y'all ever hear yourselves? Like, huh? And of course, this message has not skipped over Black women, but something all these coaches online and in books seem to wholly and completely ignore is systemic issues that impact Black women. You cannot use desirability and swirling. I'm sorry, this idea is just so funny to me. Anyways, you cannot use desirability and swirling to run away or get away from misogynoir and patriarchal violence. Like, it cannot be done because these are what? Systemic issues. The only way that we can all be liberated from these issues is through the work of dismantling these systems. Even as women malign heterosexuality online through jokes like this, which I will say are hilarious. Like, whenever I see jokes like this, I die because they're so funny. But it doesn't actually do any of the work. I actually think it bolsters bio-essentialist views of gender and partnering. Love is not different for the binary genders. What is different is how much emphasis we place on a freaking binary and how much that binary matters. If you want to think about this more, Yuhei Wang has written a really great article about this called Heterosexuality and its Discontents for the outline. It will be linked in the description box below. Bell Hooks answers this question by saying that we all need to value living by a love ethic. Committing to live by a love ethic where we learn to value things like loyalty, nurturing people's well-being, living ethically, and community. So this is not where I stop because I really want y'all to read this book. Like, it was so useful for me. When I decided to read the book, I was very wary because in a way I had begun to look at love as something that wasn't really worth my time and interest. Something that like Bell Hooks talks about in like the first few chapters of the book. And that was mainly because I was thinking about romantic love, but it was very useful for me because I am interested in all other types of love, and I care much more about those types of love than really romantic love. So I hope this will encourage you to read the book and consider some of your understandings of love. Thanks for watching again, and let me know what you think about this topic in the comments down below. We are almost at 1,000 subscribers. Thank you guys. Like, thank you very much. So don't forget to like and share the video and subscribe to my channel if you like what I do on here. You can follow me at Black Wahala on all platforms to hear more from me. Anyways, bye besties.